Hello, I'm Marc Steiner, and welcome back. We are about to have a conversation with Mehlon Mitchell here on Free Speech TV and the Marc Steiner Show on 88.9 FM WEAA, the voice of the community in Baltimore and Washington. Mehlon Mitchell, of course, is the Madison firefighter, the Wisconsin firefighter, president of the union, who gave that great line that took the country by storm when the workers were resisting being trashed in Wisconsin. We have a fire in the House of Labor, and we're here to put it out. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure. So tell me, that was such an intense struggle in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Students, but not just students and workers together, public sector workers, and almost unprecedented in terms of that kind of unity across that line. And I just, for a moment, just take us back to that moment, and also about, even though some people look at it as a defeat, how you look at the end of all that.
Well, to go back, it started February 14th, where it came out the budget repair bill. And actually, unlike other areas around the United States, firefighters and police officers were exempt from all the changes.
Right.
So we did not have to come out against this bill because we were exempt, so to speak. So all the collective bargaining, destroying collective bargaining rights, all the concessions, firefighters, police officers were exempt. We were told that we could sit idly by and not have to partake in any of the protests because they'll take care of us, so to speak. Well, we not only told them no, but we told them hell no because it was wrong. And what firefighters were doing and what we were doing at that time was what we do in our everyday lives, and that is to respond to emergencies. This was an emergency in our state. This was an emergency for the citizens of Madison, not Madison, but in Madison, but the citizens of the state of Wisconsin. So we made sure that we were there, and when we first came out against this, we were not looking at getting the resounding reception that we get. We weren't looking at as far as being heroes, because you'll never have a firefighter or police officer tell you they're a hero. We were just responding to an emergency like we do every day, 24/7, and it just happened to turn out the way it was. But looking back at it now, there's not one thing I would change as far as coming out against this, because we needed to. And we're going to continue to fight. It's not a fight that we asked for, but it's a fight that we're going to make sure we finish.
And I was, and when that scene, I remember watching on television. I didn't see it in person, but when the firefighters came in and marching through the Capitol, many of them in their uniforms. It was an amazing sight. Everybody just couldn't stop applauding. It erupted the entire crowd. Yeah. Because it is. And when you think about the annals of protests in America, to have people from trade unions marching with student protesters, marching with citizens, really was unprecedented in some ways. It hasn't happened in years. Maybe in the civil rights struggle, some unions came out to back the end of segregation. But it really was an unprecedented moment. You think it's a bellwether moment.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, though, that it didn't happen before. I think and I know we as unions went from, we used to just service our members. We stopped educating, we stopped mobilizing, and bringing our members together, and that's unfortunate. That's why we are why we're here now. If you look at it, there's 39.6 union members in our state voted for Scott Walker. 39.6 union members.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a huge number.
A heck of a lot. In Ohio, Governor Kasich, the firefighters and police officers actually backed Governor Kasich. So we got to get back to knowing who's there for our issues. The days of just the voting for gays, guns, and God, as I call it, are over. We got to make sure that we take care of candidates that know our issues. So when we came out against this and spoke against this, we were there to make sure that our voices were heard. And we got to keep taking it to the streets. And you talked about the civil rights movement. A lot of people curtail this civil rights movement, but if there's one critique of the civil rights movement, is that they stopped taking it to the streets. They stopped organizing the sit-ins, and a lot of it was because they had many landmark victories. In 1964, 65 Voting Rights Act, in Topeka, Kansas, Brown versus the Board of Education, but they stopped organizing sit-ins and taking it to the streets. And we got to make sure that we keep the pressure on, and we do that by taking it to the streets, because once we take it to the streets, it affects a whole mass of people, not just the people that we're surrounded by. So we're going to continue that fight, and this is, again, it's not just a union fight, it's a middle-class fight. And it's not just a movement, it's got to be a way of life for us, because we can't be asleep at the wheel again.
Now, I just a quick question here. I was thinking about, you're the youngest person, probably the first African-American elected president of the Wisconsin firefighters. Right? And when you said 40%, close to 40% of the other workers in the state backed the Republican candidate. I mean, how much of that do you think is based in thinking about America in a different way? America as a place, what a better term to put on the table, is America a place where it is the Republican and kind of dominated white man's rule in some ways, and that there's difficult people getting over that. At the same time, you were elected by your fellows, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the contradictions are giving rise to kind of a new world, it feels like.
Yeah, and I was elected actually January 12th, a month before all this stuff happened.
Just a month.
Yeah,
right,
just
right.
1 month, a month and 2 days. But I think you make a good point. I think that people are not necessarily scared of change, but they fear change in a little bit of a way. And going back to just our votes, I mean, firefighters, I can speak for firefighters and somewhat police officers. We're generally conservative in our views.
Right.
I mean, Second Amendment rights are important, making sure we keep our guns and making sure that people don't have abortions and making sure that, but we have to get away from that. And I think that, you know, when they preach job creation, being fiscally conservative is just wrong. Because there hasn't been one bill in the state of Wisconsin yet that's been put out to create jobs. We have a special job session bill coming up here in October. Now this is October, and he was elected in January. Now we just started getting a special session bill on jobs, job creation. I mean, we needed jobs back in January.
Right, exactly. So I mean, so what is your thoughts on the strategy from your perspective? I mean, you have a state, Wisconsin, that has this great progressive history. It also had this huge vote, I remember, for George Wallace in the 60s. That both things live in that state. And so it is, in that sense, a politically and emotionally divided state in some ways. And it's your home. So, I mean, talk about what you think is, I mean, what is your idea about how you begin to overcome that and create a majority? Because it often has had progressive leaders as well.
Yeah, and in our state right now, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, you cannot like the direction that our state is going in. I mean, we're a very divided state, like you said, but the state of Wisconsin has been a very strong labor state. 1936, AFSCME was formed in 1936 in the state of Wisconsin. In 1968, we had the first collective bargaining law. Pretty much the best comprehensive bargaining law in the nation.
Right, that's right.
But he is trying to get rid of that in all one swoop of the pen. And we just can't let that happen. And I think it's time for our state. I mean, he has definitely galvanized our state. And he has brought people that were generally thought to be Republicans or independent that lean a little bit to the right. He's moving them over to the left. And I think you're going to see a change in Wisconsin that's going to be unprecedented. I mean, we had the recalls, and we got 2 out of the 6 that we were trying to get. And that's a win. And these are all red districts where those 2 won.
Right.
So I think you're going to see a change, and I think people see now what the governor was actually trying to do.
I have to ask you a personal question.
Personal, uh-oh.
Semi-personal. you grew up in Milwaukee. I mean, you were born in Milwaukee.
No, I was born in Milwaukee. I lived there for a year, then went to south suburbs of Chicago, then moved to Delavan, Wisconsin, where the governor went. We went to the same high school when I was in 4th grade. Uh-huh. We obviously took different classes.
Yeah. Came out with a little different perspective.
Yeah.
But so why did you become a firefighter?
You know, that's a good question. Both of my brothers are firefighters. I have 2 brothers, and
really,
my younger brother's a firefighter in St. Paul, Minnesota, and my older brother's a firefighter in Atlanta, Georgia. A right-to-work state, by the way. And
it is, yeah.
I truly believe it's been in my blood. I did go toy around with being a chef at one time. I went to culinary school in Chicago.
It's all associated with fire.
6 months, yeah, right. Different kind of fire.
Different kind of fire.
But I think it's been in my blood to be a firefighter. And, you know, to help with the community and be involved in our community is something that I've really enjoyed over the years. And my new role as being state president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin has just enhanced that. So being a firefighter, I mean, I love it. I still love going to work. I don't get to go as much as I used to, but...
You still work?
I still work, yeah. I'm still online. I'm a lieutenant with the City of Madison Fire Department.
Uh-huh. Oh, you're in Madison?
Yeah, City of Madison. I actually became a lieutenant in January as well. Everything happened in January.
Wow, January was a big month for you, man.
Heck of a month. Then February came, right after my birthday in February.
Oh, my God.
It's a hell of a present.
Might mean something. You should check that out.
Yeah.
But just in closing, I'm just also thinking about now, where as president of the Firefighters Union, as one of the leaders of this coalition to kind of take back Wisconsin, name of people, what is your strategy for 2012? Is it all built around elections, or is it more about organizing and galvanizing the community? How are you
what's two-tier. It's actually, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. We have to make sure that we galvanize our members, which the governor has already done, but we have to make sure that we educate our members. Education is key. We got away from that. And I think we have to look at ourselves as much as we look at the current administration. We got away from taking care of and making sure that our members know what the issues are. We're getting back to that now. But elections are important, and elections are key, and we got to make sure that we're involved in every election, right down to the court system, to alder, to local, state, and federal elections. But more important than elections, not just being involved in elections, but making sure we hold people accountable once they're elected. We cannot just no longer get behind people because they have a D behind their name. We're going to hold all candidates as well as when they get elected accountable. Whether it be Democrat, Republican, we have to hold them accountable. And if they're not the people that are taking care of us, we got to get rid of them. And we have to make sure they know our issues once they get into office, as opposed to just sitting back like we did with Obama and saying now everything's going to be taken care of. No, that's not how it works. We have to be engaged from day one and continue to stay engaged and make sure that we are there every step of the way.
Mehlon Mitchell, president of the firefighters in Wisconsin, helped lead the struggle in Madison to save the public workers and to save the rights of workers in that state, joined us here at Free Speech TV. Thank you so much, brother. It's been just a pleasure to meet you, man.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I'm Marc Steiner here for Free Speech TV and the Marc Steiner Show on WEAA 80.9 FM, the voice of the community. We'll be right back with another interesting guest from Boston, so don't go away. And keep the struggle going as we broadcast here from the Take Back the Dream Conference in Washington, D.C.